Live.
So it's supposed to be up and working?
It says it is a very bad connection. That happens every time. Hang on, let me see what we got though.
Do you have the list of questions around?
I do have the list.
If you can hear me, hello everybody. But later on there'll be...
It says it's just a bad connection.
Huh.
Ooh. Sad.
We're seeing what's happening as far as connections and how it's working. So I don't know when they start recording for in the future. But anyway, hello everybody. My name is Disciple and I'm here with special guests. Some girl we picked up on the side of the mountain, Christine, and Halo. Another girl I picked her up a long time ago. Anyway, we're going to do another live question and answer, and so I'm excited to get to do this with you. It's 6 o'clock Central Time Zone, and we're coming to you live from Jackson, Tennessee, where where we know someone that goes to school at a mysterious undisclosed location. So we won't say any more details than that. Because you'll never figure it out.
No.
Anyway,
Grumpy says he's here.
Oh, hey, Grumpy.
Well, it says we are here.
Oh, we?
My assumption is Grumpy.
Might be the Gucci girl also.
Could
anyway,
be.
Hello. I watched your video where you reconfigured your hike just a few minutes ago, actually, right before we had some pizza, before we did this. So good to have you along here this evening. Hopefully we can connect, talk more. Let's see. We got a list of questions. I'm just going to get right into it. We're not going to keep you guys very long tonight. We're keeping it short because I have a hot date tonight.
Not with me.
Daddy-daughter date. So we're leaving in not too long a time. So let's get right into it.
Alrighty. Somebody asked, let's just start out with like technical stuff, the blisters and socks.
Did I get blisters? Oh, yeah, is the Pope Catholic? Yes, absolutely. I really got blisters more in the beginning of the trail when I was hiking in a little bit stiffer of a shoe. If you remember, I used Oboe's Traverse shoes. Not that the Oboes are any more prone to blisters than any other shoe, but the point was they were a little more rigid, and so my foot would move against the rigidity of the shoe and cause blisters. When I switched in Harper's Ferry to the Ultra Lone Peaks, basically I never got another blister again. And not that you won't get blisters in those shoes, because people do, but my feet had gotten hardened to that point. But the deal is you'll kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. I don't think I knew anybody that didn't get blisters. I don't know if there's a magic sock configuration that does or doesn't work. I know the right socks, W-R-I-G-H-T, right socks that I tried, they're guaranteed not to give you blisters, and I never really had any problems when I wore those socks. So I did like them. They don't last very long, but they're very comfortable. When they're brand new, they're my favorite socks, but then they wear out pretty quick. The other thing is KT tape is your best friend. There's videos out there on solving blister problems, but if you take some KT tape, you can cut it into patches, and it'll last for days and days. I love KT tape. But yes, I, along with, I believe, every other hiker had blisters, but pretty much not a problem the whole second half of the trail.
Okay, which socks were you using? I
used Darn Toughs most of the time, mainly because that's what I had the most of. I wore out the right socks, and I tried to get some more ordered, and we had miscommunication. We never got any more right socks ordered. And then I wanted to try the Farm to Feet socks, and I never had a chance. So I don't know. But to answer your question, I hiked in Darn Toughs most all the time. Really liked them. Never had any problems, and they're guaranteed for life. So love the Darn Toughs. I just like to experiment.
At NOC, he had a lot of he had a bad blister there, and so at Fontana, I mailed him some toe socks.
Oh, Injinji toe socks to help keep gaps between my toes. Later, I never even wore those anymore. They did their purpose, and I liked them. But after a while, I sent those home and just kept Darn Tough in the right socks. So anyway, all right, let's go to the next question. Hopefully that helps.
All right. Locke McKinnon wants to know how you tied your shoes so they stay tied.
Oh, so with my Oboes, I had to do a little more of the double knotting and cinching it down and all that. But with the Lone Peaks, the laces are really thin. Bottom line, they stayed tied very well. I never really had, in fact, I had more trouble getting them untied at the end of the day or when I wanted to take a break and air my feet out. I had more trouble getting them untied. So I think I did this pretty standard regular knot and then a double knot and cinch it down. And that worked for me. So, yeah.
My shoes never stayed tied.
She didn't double knot them.
I did too, and they still came undone. No. Well, but I also put my trekking pole through them a lot.
I pride myself in being an expert shoe tire. And by the way, Pristine is joining us. So if you have any questions for her and her perspective as a hiker's kid and also doing nearly 100 miles or whatever with me on the trail this year and summiting Mount Katahdin, she is here.
All right.
Sorry, we had a little technical difficulty.
Try that again here.
H, who, what? We're doing this if you will. Okay.
All right, now I think we're back. Okay.
We back?
I believe we're back. H. Fernandez wants to know, he has an Osprey Atmos 50. Is that large enough for a thru hike?
Well, so the pack size is all dependent upon the type of gear you're putting in it and then basically the amount of experience you have. If you can get out there, do some shakedown hikes and figure out what you really need and more importantly, what you don't need, then yes, absolutely. 50 liters is plenty large. I think my Z-Pac's Arc Blast that I used is only like a 40-some liter, 42 or something liter, and it's plenty big. The only time you need more space is when you buy with food. So anyway, no, 50 liters should be great, but do your shakedown hikes and don't carry anything that you don't need. There you go. Thanks for the question.
Keeps cutting in and out. It keeps cutting in and out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, hang on here.
We should have tested it.
Well, it was working. Alrighty. So, Uncle Paul wants to know, did you ever carry soap?
Hey, Uncle Paul, I did carry soap. So I carried it from Georgia to Maine. Ask me how many times I used it. Okay, I'm pretending you're asking. I'm going to say about that many times, probably. I used soap a little bit. I carried Dr. Bronner's, and I had a full little bottle, and then I got it about halfway. I dumped some out or whatever, and then I put it in a small dropper bottle, and I carried only like a half a dropper bottle full, and occasionally I used it, but yeah, it sounds gross. And I remember when I watched hiker videos, and they said that a little bottle lasted them the whole trail. I thought that's sick and disgusting, and I don't think it is. I don't know. It never was really a big deal, and I have to talk more about how I cleaned my pot when I had it and all that, but the bottom line, you figure out ways you don't really need it that much.
He said that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Lynn.
I had an eyedropper half full of Dr. Bronner's. Because one drop does a ton. It's like amazing.
I used it every time I was out there, though. Anyway, Lynn wants to know if you ever tripped over your tent guy lines.
Hey, Lynn, because of my vision, I wonder? Is that what she means?
Probably.
Because of my low vision? Oh, man, when you're like a cheetah, I not only didn't trip, I leapt over them and danced around like nothing could slow me down or stop me. So no, I never had any trouble. I had a guy with a huge Airedale just about take my tent down, tripping over my guy lines.
That was in Maine.
Yeah, he let the dog come up almost into the tent with me, and then the dog jerks over and anyway, about wiped my tent out, and I was going to wipe the dog out. Anyway, the owner, not the dog. The dog didn't do anything wrong. The owner did. But no, never had any trouble with my guy lines. So I didn't get out of the tent in the dark very much at all.
You didn't have to.
Yeah, I didn't have to. So nope, I didn't have any trouble. But yeah,
okay.
The answer is no.
Alrighty, supplements and vitamins.
Oh, my dad hooked me up with some whole food, men's daily, like really good vitamins. And I took one of those every day. And I never felt like I was really lacking much, although my diet was horrible. I ate almost no fruit, very little the only vegetables I ate were onions in the form of an onion ring, deep fried. So I had horrible, which at home is not the case. I used to eat lots of fruit and vegetables. And so, but I never felt like I was lacking. I think a good daily vitamin is very important because your diet's horrible on the trail.
Speaking of food, how was it going stoveless?
Okay, we'll transition to the next question. Who asked that one? Do you remember? How was it going stoveless? It was fine. I did not really have any trouble. I didn't miss the stove. We had a massive heat wave. Overall, my experience on the AT was way more heat than ever there was cold. If it were a cold year, I would have missed the stove a lot more, I'm sure. But because it was so hot, I didn't miss the stove. I kind of enjoyed going stoveless. It was a little bit of a mark of pride for me in that I could do it, and not only that, but I'm saving myself about a pound of weight not having the fuel can and pot and all that stuff. A little bit less mess, which those of you that watched my videos know I'm all about simplicity and efficiency, lightweight, crazy lightweight. And so anyway, I enjoyed it, and I would definitely go stoveless again anytime it's really warm out. Again, if it's cold, now in the 100 Mile Wilderness, Halo brought a stove, and I'd certainly let her boil my water for me at night. But it was so hot I couldn't eat it for a while.
Oh, my word. Yeah.
I had to. So anyway, I enjoyed it. It's something to play with. I liked what kept me motivated. More than anything, what kept me going on the Appalachian Trail was changing things up. Experimenting with socks, experimenting with stoveless, experimenting with sleeping bags and just different shoes and all that. That kept it fun, and every day it was like a new experiment, not the same old, same old. So maybe that makes sense. I liked it.
In the 100 Mile Wilderness, it was so hot, we could have just put it on rocks, and it would have heated it up.
Our water bottles were boiling
Oh, my word.
from the heat. So,
it was so
anyway.
hot. Okay, somebody would like to know if you've heard from Kerdog, and does he have any plans to finish?
Yes and no. Yes, I've heard from Kerdog. We're staying in touch. Both of us have been busy. I mean, we're in Tennessee, and right now it's been a week that we've been gone. And so Kerdog's been traveling also. His wife had some surgery, and she's fine, by the way. They're both fine. He shaved his beard. Really upset Halo. She's like, Kerdog is gone.
I don't even know who he is.
Anyway, but he's doing well. He's recovering well. He's jogging, preparing for a marathon. And yes, we're staying in touch. And no, as far as I know, he has zero plans to ever get back on the Appalachian Trail, let alone finish the thru hike. So there you go.
All right, Uncle Paul wants to know, did you protect against ticks, and were they a problem?
So, brother, you guys that are followers of Jesus know what I'm talking about. I think God was like protecting me. I'm not a good one to ask about the ticks because I found one on me the entire trail, and it was embedded in my leg underneath my compression sleeves that I had just treated with permethrin like a day or two before.
Oh, I was with you.
Soaked it. Yeah, it was in when you came and picked me up at that big bridge. Anyway, so I never had any problems with ticks. None. I heard everybody else around me had at least a few on them at different times. And I heard of at least one guy that got a tick-borne disease, but they weren't sure which one. Yeah. So they didn't seem to be a big problem for us. But again, I mean, clearly with my lack of vision and my inability to do this thing on my own, God did this for me. And I think he just protected me from ticks. And I got bit by mosquitoes, but not terrible bad. So anyway, hopefully that helps. I would definitely encourage people to do your research and get permethrin, treat your clothing, and take preventative maintenance measures, because we have a good friend that's suffering from Lyme disease, and it's horrible. Yeah. I was worried about it a little bit, and man, thank you, Lord. So.
All right, Pristine, you ever think you're going to do a thru hike?
No. I enjoy backpacking and I enjoy hiking, and so I maybe would do a section hike, but a thru hike is just a very long commitment, and it's not my thing per se. So I really enjoy sections. I just like showers.
Yeah, her name is Pristine for a reason.
So showers are nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Uncle Paul wants to know, how much weight did you lose?
So yeah, I lost what I call 25 solid pounds. Like I legitimately lost 25 pounds for sure. When I finished, I was about 35 pounds lighter than when I started, but I gained back like 5 or 7 or 8 pounds almost instantly. So that wasn't weight that I had genuinely lost. But so I think I really truly lost around 25 to almost 30 pounds during the trail. And I mean, I ate all I could. So.
And how are your eating habits now?
Terrible. My eating is this Uncle Paul?
Uncle Paul. Yeah, he's
so I'm having
down.
a horrible time after the trail because my body's still not recovered very well. My knees hurt. My lower legs and feet are all doing okay, but my knees hurt. It seems like every time I go out and run a little bit, I hurt a lot. Later on that day and the next day, I mean, hurt a lot. I can push through some pain, and I hurt a lot. And so I've not been able to exercise much, and yet I'm like so hungry. I'm hungry all the time, and I want to eat a bunch. So my diet is terrible, and then traveling makes it even worse. Like I said, we've been gone a week now, doing some speaking and stuff, and it's horrible eating on the road, and you're bored, and so I get hungry. Anyway, I'm struggling. If y'all could pray for me in that regard, I would really appreciate it, because I know tomorrow we'll get home, hopefully tomorrow night, and I've got to really make some changes and try to, maybe I have to take some ibuprofen in order to keep running or whatever, but I want to get healthy and stay very healthy. So that's an area that I'm going to have to be careful with.
How'd you handle rattlesnakes, and were you nervous about running into them?
Who's asking this one?
This is Norma C.
Hi, Norma. How do I handle rattlesnakes?
Yeah.
Very carefully, right behind the head, pick them up, and don't let them bite you.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. I've got this flute that I play, and they do whatever I ask them to do. I only encountered 2 that I heard and saw, and they were both on the side of the trail. They let me know they were there before I got there. They were actually cool in hindsight. The first one, if you watch my video, learning to share the trail, somewhere in Virginia. It was, anyway.
No, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. It was, the end. Okay. Anyway, that video's got a lot of views, and it's pretty neat. I was upset that day because I was worried about that same snake hurting my friends behind me. And come to find out, by the time they got there, the snake was gone because I marked the trail. But I know everybody I knew pretty much encountered a rattlesnake or 2, and no one had any problems. So just be aware, but don't let them slow you down. What?
Grumpy's gonna be in trouble. All right.
What did you say?
You have to wait. How was your morale towards the end of your hike? Did you ever consider ending your hike before the northern terminus?
My morale, depends on. My morale was good. I think my morale was pretty good the whole trail. I was getting upset with the trail in Maine that it was not only difficult but dangerous, and that was hard because I just wanted to be like done or finish strong or whatever, and it's like the trail just kept trying to kill us hikers, and every through hiker I knew was upset with the trail in Maine. I mean, look at Cur Dog, he got off the trail. So I don't think that's my morale, though. I think my morale, I think the Lord just allowed me to have a pretty strong morale, though, mostly the whole time. So the lowest morale for me was in like New Jersey or Southern New York when it was crazy hot. She's popping her knuckles. I'm gonna pop her knuckles. Anyway, it was super hot, and the terrain was pretty challenging, and it was just rough. But yeah, my morale was I think pretty good. By the time you get to Maine, you've learned to deal with morale. Like, you've learned to deal with emotions and the mental aspect, and so you're either gonna push through that junk or not. And
yeah, and he never once considered getting off the trail.
Never. That was never. I thought, why am I doing this, Lord? Like, let's get this thing over. But I didn't even do that. I just finished. Just keep going till you're done. So.
All right. Now that you've had some time to reflect, what are your favorite locations on the trail? Like mountains, shelters?
I wish I had time to think about this one more because there was a lot. I'll have to get to that one.
In a minute?
No, like maybe on a different video. We could do a video on favorite locations and shelters. There were some really cool shelters. Some of my favorite spots were just like unofficial campsites right alongside lakes or streams, usually where there were less people around. Not that I wanted to be antisocial, but more remote feeling, I guess, places. Boy, McAfee Knob, I keep seeing the picture of that when our videos pop up, and that McAfee Knob obviously was gorgeous. Mount Katahdin, you can't beat that, especially with the family. Boy, so many. Yeah, we'll have to do like a whole video on favorite places because every state has awesome spots. Yeah. So, and it depends on who you're with and how you're feeling. Being with Cur Dog made a lot of places much better than they would have been alone or whatever. So anyway, being with Halo in the 100 Mile Wilderness made that very special. The lakes.
Yeah,
the loons calling at night.
The ponds up in the 100 Mile Wilderness are super cool. Especially when we were going through because it was so hot. And so you could jump in and cool off. And then the sunsets were just spectacular up there. Absolutely spectacular. Mm-hmm. But I know that when I was on the trail with them, my favorite places that we camped were stealth spots. Mm-hmm. And it was just something about being out there alone. It was just beautiful.
I thought of a favorite place. It was with Iceman up in Lancaster. It was called Yoder's Buffet. And it was a huge breakfast buffet. A huge breakfast buffet. They made eggs to order, pancakes to order, crepes. That was one of my favorite places on the whole trail. Yeah.
All right, Grumpy or Gucci Girl, one of them wants to know, do you still have problems with Pop-Tarts calling your name?
Those Pop-Tarts quit talking after the trail. I can't hear them anymore. So, yeah, I have not had any Pop-Tarts. So that was literally a trail thing. I hadn't had a Pop-Tart in a dozen years, and I've had a lot of them now, but not any since the trail.
Yeah. All right, Uncle Paul wants to know what's your next big adventure.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, I don't know.
I want to know what we're just doing tomorrow.
Yeah, we'd like to know what we're going to do for life. But I don't know. I'm thinking for sure paddling. We're going to try to make, Lord willing, depending on where we're at or what we're doing, we'd like to make at least a couple of trips to the Boundary Waters next year for some canoeing. And I'd even like to do the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. It's like 750 miles of lakes and rivers connected in a trail, much like the Appalachian Trail, but through waterways. And you can through paddle that whole thing. So I think that's what I'm going to work towards. So we'll see. That's up in, you get to go to 5 states and part of Quebec. So pretty sweet.
While we were hiking, he would always talk about where we were going to canoe next, and the different next time we're going to the Boundary Waters. So yeah, I'm pretty sure dreaming about canoeing while walking.
Yeah, probably have to talk loud. I don't know how the microphone picks up, but
yeah. Were you able to hear her at all?
She talked about on the trail. I talked about paddling a lot, and I did. Everybody around me, I'm like, I really like to paddle. I'm not a big hiker.
Grumpy says, yeah, they could hear her.
All right,
okay.
Good.
H. Fernandez wants to know, do you plan to write a book with your Christian's perspective on your adventure?
I not necessarily, but it's not off the table either. We've got some notes, and by vlogging, I'm able to keep track of a lot of stuff, and I know a pretty good writer, and so, well, actually, both of them. So, yeah, there's a chance. We'll have to see if we get prompted by the Lord or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. That'd be neat, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so what's your favorite smallmouth lure?
Oh, Doug. Hey, Doug from Jackson, Tennessee. Hey, we're in the same state. That's
we
cool.
are.
Yeah, he's in Irwin, Tennessee, and I'm here in Jackson. Anyway, my favorite smallmouth lure, it would definitely be a surface lure. I'm going to say like a baby torpedo. It's a different brand. It's called a Hubs Chub, I think. It's got a single prop on the back. And so it's like a popper with a buzzer on the back, and man, oh man, I love that thing. And I definitely, so any kind of a surface lure is my first choice. And then other than that, I really like, tubes for the bottom, swim jigs, swim jig with a thumper tail. I don't know, man, I can't, whatever they're biting on, that's my favorite. Whether it's top or bottom or in the middle of the water, I'll fish whatever.
Favorites, whatever they're biting. All right.
Yep. Crankbaits. I love a little crankbait.
Talk about shuttle across the Kennebec.
Oh, so, boy, if you watch that video, maybe you haven't, and so I'll tell you real quick. I was trying to finish a really long day, I think 21 miles that day, and to get to my family. So if I was going to lay up short and try to get to the Kennebec right at 9 o'clock, I think, is the first shuttle.
So to get across the Kennebec using the free shuttle, which is the canoe with the blaze at the bottom, you have to get there between 9 and 2 during the peak months. So 9 and 2 are the hours that canoe runs. Now, finish.
Yeah, so in order to get there, I missed the 2 o'clock. I was way down the trail, back down the trail. So my goal was to get there right at 9 o'clock the next morning and then get across as quick as possible and have Halo meet me at the road right after the river crossing. But if I pushed hard, I could cross it before dark, and Halo could pick me up, and I'd have an extra night and part of a day with them. So I went ahead and did that. I pushed hard and hiked as fast as I could, but I missed the early shuttle. There are shuttles you can hire. You can call them and get a shuttle. So do you remember the name?
I don't know.
They're in the AWOL's guide, I think. But anyway, I, along with other hikers right before me and after me, called a lady down the river, and she runs up in a little boat with a little gas motor and picks you up and hauls you across. And I think it was $30.
And for those of you planning a through hike, there is only cell reception. Doesn't matter what carrier. There's only cell reception at the top of that mountain. I don't remember the name of it.
Right before you drop down into the valley where the river is. And I mean, it was a miracle. It was an act of God that I got through to Halo for her to make connections. But anyway, that's how that worked. So I was able to hire a shuttle so I could get across to spend more time with my family. It was worth it to me to get to them and have some hot food too.
And it was pretty cool. I mean, she used the motor and paddled. Isn't that
Well,
right?
both, yeah, because when the rocks, you couldn't use the motor. So, yep.
All right.
Let's keep moving.
All right.
Try to answer
Were
what
you ever injured or too exhausted to hike on a planned hike day?
Never. I never had. The only injury I had were the horrible shin splints coming out of the Smoky Mountains, and they caused me to do less miles than I wanted to. Like after I left Standing Bear Hostel, I could barely make it up that next mountain. I mean, I was in horrific pain. But one of my favorite camp spots on the whole trail was that night. So pretty neat. But anyway, so I never had injuries lay me up. But what was the next question? Too exhausted?
Yeah.
There was one time in New York when Kerdog and I had planned, let's say 16 or 17 mile day, and we only went 14. We didn't make the place we hoped to get to because we were so exhausted.
That's right.
It was so hot.
I forgot about that.
We just couldn't drink enough water. I mean, it was crazy hot. And that was the one day that was demoralizing because the whole trail I pushed and got to wherever I was hoping to get to until we got to the 100-mile wilderness. And that was a whole learning lesson for me and patience. But I mean, it was a learning curve for me because I had worked so hard to make it every day. But that day in New York I'm not going to say so exhausted, but it just made a whole lot more sense to stop there for the night. And then it ended up raining some after we got set up, so it was perfect.
Which is a good reminder to be flexible with your
Very
plans.
flexible.
Even further into the trail. I know at the beginning of the trail, that was like the big advice everybody gave you. Be flexible. But even later in your hike, you have to be flexible. Johnkin wants to know, what was your greatest wow moment?
Oh, man. Yeah, wow. Oh, boy. You know what? Probably the greatest wow moment for me was climbing Mount Moosilauke. And we climbed it going southbound. So we started at, is it Pinkham Notch? Whichever notch is between that and the Wolves and Kinsman. So we started there and climbed up the mountain from the backside, let's call it, which is you're following this river, this creek flowing down. It's beautiful. But you get up and you get to summit the mountain, and then coming over the summit and heading back down into tree line was when it really hit me that I was in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and had hiked 1,800 miles to get there from Georgia. And that was overwhelming. I mean, that just overwhelmed me. I called Halo and I was just crying, overwhelmed with emotion that I had been allowed to walk that far, and looking out at the vastness of the rugged White Mountains was overwhelming. That was probably the greatest wow factor. But
Uncle Paul says, I thought a pretty good wow moment was completing the half-gallon challenge.
yeah.
It took him forever. Kerdog, he
we got
wiped it
very
down.
little time. Let's go. Yeah.
All right. Where am I? What was your scariest moment on the trail?
The scariest
While you're
moment.
thinking about that, Nora, if you went to school here, it could be your dorm room. That's we're in a dorm, not hers, but staying at an apartment.
Or that
they rent,
like a hotel room,
to
basically.
parents and stuff.
So the scariest moment, boy, I didn't
rattlesnake.
I didn't have it. See, I was thought of maybe the rattlesnake, but I wasn't scared. I was like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. So I didn't really. Maybe some of the slippery descents in I don't know. I remember. I never was scared.
Massachusetts coming down that thing.
In the lightning.
Okay, well, the lightning wasn't. I was never really. I was bummed out that it was slowing me down. things like that, like lightning or the slippery rocks. That day in Massachusetts when I climbed, I summited 5 mountains and had 5 thunderstorms come through, and I had to go down a mossy, slippery, basically cliff to get to Halo that night. That was like maybe some of the more treacherous stuff, just because it was all so wet and mossy and slippery and lightning. But I truly was never scared.
Maybe when he saw that H2O had come to climb Katahdin.
Well, not that he but when I saw how difficult it was and how worn out he was, that's like 2 miles up, maybe 3 miles up, going up Katahdin. That's when I realized, oh man, this is going to be harder than I ever thought, getting him up the mountain and back down. But anyway, I don't think I was ever scared. Again, God allowed me to do things that I never would do on my own. So probably should have been scared. Maybe it was just stupidity on my part. All right, one more question.
All right, well, maybe. Is there anything you wished you would have had with you on your hike?
Yeah, my wife and kids. Yeah. No, in fact, I kept getting rid of stuff. The typical problem with backpacking is not what you wish you had, but all the stuff that you don't need. That's a much bigger issue. And I spent time, every time I got into a hotel, I would go through my junk and just see what haven't I used in a week, or what don't I really need. And so that was fun for me, but there was nothing that I wished. I wish I had like a warmer sleeping bag a couple of nights when it was maybe chillier. But again, backpacking, I talked about this on videos, backpacking isn't about being super comfortable all the time. It's about being content the majority of the time and surviving the difficult times. That's what backpacking is all about. It's not like car camping or even canoe camping.
Quick answer.
Nothing I was looking for.
How'd you deal with the rain, the cold, and did you have any sub 30 degree weather?
Yeah.
Answer that one real
So
quick.
the rain, this will be our last question.
No, there's one more after that, but yes.
Okay, this is not our last question, so get comfortable. Get another bottle of water. All right, how do I deal with the rain and cold? I mean, it's gear. Your gear choices are so important. Look at my White Mountain gear video, my gear review or whatever, gear list for the White Mountains. And that was warmer clothing, cold weather gear. But having the right gear is very important. And so it's easy these days with all the technology to do the right research and get the right stuff, because you want lightweight but dependable gear. Anyway, having a good solid tent that's not going to let you down, let you get wet. Staying dry is vital important, because I mean, you're going to get wet. There's just no way around it. And so I saved my rain gear for when I got to camp. Like, I would just get wet and hike in the rain all day long or whatever, as long as it wasn't too cold. And then when I got to camp, I would try to get dried off and get out of my wet clothes and all that. And if I needed to move around, I'd wear my dry rain gear then. Otherwise, your rain gear is sopping wet and you can never get dry again after that. So most thru hikers did the same thing. We save our rain gear throughout the day. Now, if it's really cold, you've got to wear it, because you just can't hardly move enough to stay warm. Anyway, so having the right gear is important. Again, look at my videos to see which gear I carried. And then what was the last?
Did you have any sub 30?
Yeah, maybe not sub 30, but it was right around 30 a couple times.
Roan Mountains.
Yeah, the Roan Highlands. It was really cold. It was cold at that over mountain shelter. Then the Smokies got pretty cold. So yeah, had some snow and ice and stuff a couple times. Again, the majority of my hike was much more high heat than low temperatures. So I'm not the best one to ask. But again, dealing with it is having the right gear, and that means good quality sleeping bag, and you put it in a dry bag inside a pack liner inside your pack. You can't get your gear wet. You have to have clothing that's dry, and you have to have a sleeping bag that's dry no matter what. If you can keep clothes and sleeping bag dry, you can survive really cold temperatures, because you get into your tent, get stripped down, take like a chamois or whatever I kept in my pack to keep it dry, and get dried off, and then get on dry base layer and get in your sleeping bag, and man, you can,
Okay, you have 2 final questions. First one is from Stan. I forgot. What'd you do for recovery?
Each night?
Yeah.
I stretched my hamstrings primarily every night, because I have low back trouble, and I think it's related to my tightness in my hamstrings. So every day I spent time stretching my hamstrings after I was done hiking, and I stretched my quads, and if my groin area needed it, I would sit like Indian style and do that. or possibly my IT bands. You could lay on your back and cross your leg and pull one leg up and stretch your IT band. I stretched those things as needed. I didn't do stuff like early riser carrying all the rolling out deals that much. I had a ball, I carried some.
Yeah.
And
So
I
I
liked
lost
that. I liked that. And then we ended up replacing it, but I rarely used it because there was not that much time. So anyway, I didn't do a lot of recovery like others did. I mainly stretched. As soon as I got done hiking, I stretched real quick. Set up my tent, get my water, and then stretch.
Last question. Doug wants to know if you've been fishing since you've been back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, one of the first things I did was fish. In fact, I got to fish a bass tournament like the week after I got back, and we caught a bunch of fish. It was a great tournament.
In one of the videos, I've got a picture of the fish he caught at that tournament. So.
Yeah, I caught a crappie on that favorite smallmouth topwater lure I was telling you about. I caught a crappie on that at one of the farm ponds. Mm-hmm. So if you look at that video, which one was it?
I think it's Returning to Civilization.
Okay. Look at that video and you'll see some of the fish I was able to catch. I caught a couple decent bass, but like a crappie on the topwater. It's first time I ever caught a crappie on the topwater. So yes, been fishing, been paddling, been cooking barbecue,
A lot.
and then we've been traveling. So yeah, looking forward to getting back and paddling and cooking more barbecue. Fishing's going to be slowing down because it's starting to get below freezing at home now. So, yep.
Bummer. Okay, well, we didn't get to all of the questions, so we'll do another Q&A at some point. They're getting ready to go to the movie.
Yep, we're out of here. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for taking time to watch this. I hope it was helpful. Go ahead and comment below with questions for future.
After we stop this and it comes back up, then put the questions. Otherwise, because I can't keep the chat for some reason, it goes away.
Oh yeah, and tell your friends and everybody to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, we need a few more to get to where we can do something else with this channel. So hopefully, if you haven't subscribed, please do so and get your friends to subscribe. Get your churches and neighbors and whoever. So thanks a lot for coming along. Hopefully it was helpful, and God bless each one of you. Have a good night.
Hit the finish, and then don't do anything. Tell it okay.